Welcome everybody to GoLocal Live. It is Friday after a long or fast week, hard to determine in this day of lockdown. A couple quick updates from this morning. A big story about part of the problem Rhode Island's Department of Labor and Training is pushing out claims and processing payments is that their infrastructure, their technology infrastructure, is based on programming called COBOL, developed in the 1950s, and that programming has not been updated in mass over the past few decades. That was in some level of process beforehand. GoLocal had identified this as a technology issue 2 years ago, and now the department is trying to scramble to be able to find programmers to be able to update things as they need to. Take a look at that article. Secondly, today's programming, we're going to go to Bolzano, Italy with Rebecca, as we do on Fridays, to get an update of what's going on in Italy. And at 12 noon, Dr. Michael Fine will join us for an update and some information that is developing. And at 1 p.m., Governor Raimondo will have her briefing and talking points. So let's go to Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us again from Bolzano, Italy. This has been very, very helpful to have you Skype in and give us updates. Italy being a few weeks or month or so ahead of the United States. How has the past week been?
It's been, I think, probably a rough week for everyone in Italy in terms of lockdown just dragging on, et cetera, et cetera. But I believe our numbers are leveling off and our trends are getting better in terms of people being discharged from the hospital. Numbers of deaths have dropped and then sort of stayed down, and new infections overall, I believe, are trending down. So those are all really good signs, but I think for the day-to-day, people are finding it pretty difficult.
Rebecca, you had complications this week. Let's first talk about, what in a normal situation would be maybe a mundane episode, taking your daughter to the dentist. Talk about that process.
Yeah, so I had to fill out my declaration to say exactly where I was going, that I'm aware of the law, not only the national law, but the local law, which is to wear this around my face when I'm within a spreading distance of another person or in a confined space. I had to put my departure address, my arrival address, and it was very stressful for me because we are here as immigrants sort of at the pleasure of Italy, so I never really want to step even close to the line. I had two medical professionals say, yes, this counts as an emergency, but I just never know if a policeman's going to say, no, it doesn't. Going out with the child is highly suspect. We didn't have a lot of buses, so the first thing we did, we live at 1,000 meters, so about 1,000 yards, I guess. We walked down 700 to get to the city because our dentist appointment was at 3:30 and the buses down were at 10:30 and 2:30. So I thought it would be more in keeping with social distancing to walk rather than take a bus and get to a city about 3 hours earlier than I needed to be there. So we walked down, which was exhausting for her. And then we stopped and we did some shopping that's not available in the village I live in. So stuff like, I got peanut butter, we got specialty cat food for my old guy, and then we got a bus. I thought a bus would be a better option to a town that's about an hour away by bus, maybe 35 minutes. And then we took a bus to another town, which I didn't realize was between the two cities because I just relied on Google Maps. And so the whole time I arrived in this town called Moran, I was like, oh my God, I could get in trouble for this. Let's get to the dentist. So then we doubled back, got to the dentist, and she had the tooth pulled. It was a baby molar where an old cavity had popped off. So it was a very simple process that way. Finally, I had this receipt in my hand from the dentist, which was just my gold, right? Like, here, now I'm allowed to go home. I don't worry. The trip home was much more peaceful, not only because it was a lot quicker than I had anticipated, but I had that paper saying, hey, yes, here's a doctor, here's a dentist saying it was an emergency. They did it. and that just felt great. We took the train back, and leaving the train station, that was where there were a lot of officers. There was one entrance open. We took the train back, and then we had 7 minutes to catch a bus up to the village, or we would have had to wait 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it was very, you had to plan it with precision. I planned it with almost the best precision possible. I should have looked at the whole map, perhaps, first. But it was very, very stressful to do it on the one hand. On the other hand, my God, we breathed fresh air. We walked down a mountain. We went for a walk. And we saw the cities. Everything was deserted. A lot of people were following the rules by staying in. The people who were out were not following rules at all. People get on the bus, take off their mouth protection. It's like, wait, this is a tiny little space. This is where we're spreading things to each other. They get on the bus, take off the protection, have really loud projecting conversations across the bus. In the grocery store.
Were the buses and trains crowded? Were there a lot of people on the bus and on the train?
Some buses had seats blocked off and capacity 17, where the old capacity was much higher. The buses I was on, someone sat behind me. I could feel the wind from their breath in my hair. And I was like, I don't personally think I'm at that much of a risk. I did have childhood asthma, so I'm not totally out of the bark. I'm a human being, so I'm not totally not at risk. But in terms of risk factors, I'm pretty healthy, 40, so I'm okay. But I was like, oh my gosh, you're breathing. It's a note to self: wash hair when you get home, because then you don't want to put something on your pillow and breathe it in every night. People in the grocery stores were just, had to be reminded to put their masks on. I thought it was really incredible. So many people are staying at home. The people going out were just kind of like, it was pretty funny. People traveling in couples. We did actually drive by the hospital, so I saw all the tents. They have tents set up to keep potential COVID patients out of the hospital until you can get diagnosed, to basically separate services. So that was positive. Everything except emergencies is shut down at the hospital right now. In Italy, you would do something like your standard eye exam or standard dental work at the hospital because it's a nationalized system.
Sure. Some of the headlines that have come out of Italy, one is that the number of cases are beginning to level off, although we don't have a week full of statistics. We have more, a couple days, and then there's a uptick, and then it goes back to a downtick. More people are coming out of hospitals than are going into hospitals. Is there any sense of optimism, relief?
Yeah, I think, obviously for the people in the really hard-hit areas, they're going to have a lot more people that they know who are at risk or in the hospital. So I think people are feeling better there. People who are more sort of preemptively locked down, I think are, obviously nobody wants not even one unnecessary problem, but it is, apartments are not huge everywhere. People are going stir crazy. Right. I have the benefit of having a yard. I saw some of the apartments and how they get this hot sun all afternoon now. And I thought, oh my gosh, this, if you had 2 kids in there plus dogs, cats, it could be pretty tough.
There's also an article, series of news stories coming out of Italy that the La Cosa Nostra, the Mafia, whatever you want to call them, is taking advantage of the opportunity, being very entrepreneurial, buying a lot of food up, and then redistributing it to the poor to gain favor and to demonstrate control. That's coming out of the press in Italy? Is that what you're hearing there as well?
Yeah, we actually, because this region is quite unique, we don't have mafia influence here as far as I understand. So anything, the best news I would get would be Italian media in Italian. I'm that like half step closer perhaps than the English language media. But I have heard that one thing that actually inhibits the mafia is there, in the past years have been a lot of a movement towards electronic payments. a lot of certification on when the government can pay things out. And that really has blocked the mafia's capacity to exercise the control that it used to control. Because, for example, if it's in an industry that would get government contracts, now there's a lot of documentation. There are EU rules about this documentation. There are actually, I learned this in the master program, we had an IT class about this. There are really intricate payment systems where you know exactly how much is owed to the state, owed by the state, who it goes to, the individual that's in charge of the company, the criminal records of the individuals. So the opportunities for mafia really went down in the past decade. So chaos would be a time that entrepreneurial spirit could flourish.
I'm surprised they haven't built their own IT systems to be able to circumvent those controls. As we all know, the complexity of Italian government. Let's talk about the less positive news. You were able to get dental care for your daughter. The flip side was you had a lovely pet for 18 years, and that did not go well.
No, he had kidney disease, and he was okay at an appointment in October. But in February, I had to start pureeing his food. He was really deteriorating. The lockdown started in March, and one of the rules is that you can't accompany your pet to the vet anymore. You stay at the door and you hand your pet over. And that was something that was, I saw that he was deteriorating and that it might be the most humane thing to put him down, but I couldn't necessarily justify taking that action when it meant that he would be on a steel table surrounded by strangers. And so it's this choice where I don't know that there's a good choice. Right. People have said, I don't know that there's a bad choice. But so I finally got to the point yesterday where I wrote to the vet and I said, he's really not doing well. And I really need to talk to you about this. And he said, well, you can bring him up. And I said, okay. But by the time I crawled into the part of the bushes he was in, he had literally just passed away.
I was the first one who saw that.
I had said that, I had sat next to the bushes and I said to him, hey, it's okay if you need to go. And I'm sorry for all the travel I've done. I love you so much. And he was breathing heavily before that. And then my daughter saw him and he had stopped breathing about 5 minutes later. So we were actually able to bury him very quickly, which was nice. But, I think that...
2 hours is quick.
Sorry, she's in the room with me now. We're a little closer these days than before the cat died. But so we actually, we were able to get him buried. And but I would have probably taken him to the vet on Tuesday if I'd known that he would have been able to die in our arms on Tuesday rather than, how cats do slink away on their own.
Absolutely.
Suffer.
Well, we're very sorry.
Thanks.
It's a little bit of a mini epic story, right? There's so many sort of little lessons to it all. In this period of just, economic and healthcare crisis. And somehow the simplicity of a cat just going away at 18 and finding its place and passing. So we're very sorry. All these, life doesn't stop in a pandemic. And so, all these other intricacies of life continue to take place. They just don't always get the same level of attention and there's limitations. So we are sorry.
Yeah.
On a brighter note, you're healthy. Your daughter's doing well in school. Your town's less impacted than other regions of Italy. What do you see coming up in the next few weeks?
Well, I believe that part of this distribution here is that there is hope that we would have new freedoms, that since we will go out always ready to put on a mask if we're within a meter of someone or if we go into a confined space. So our region is, as I mentioned earlier, is independent. So when the national orders come out, we have to actually accept them before they take effect here. So we'll see what's been said about the next national order is that the lockdown will continue through May 3rd because there are two really big holidays coming up for Italians. Obviously Easter, but then the Monday after Easter is called Pasqua. The Monday after is called Pasquetta. And I didn't know about Pasquetta, really. I had forgotten. So I fortunately saw that every supermarket would be closed Monday, but I, buy this many apples, this many bananas every time to time it to not buy more than my share. So oh gosh, glad I didn't think I could go Monday. But Labor Day, outside of the US, Labor Day is on May 1st. So it looks like they're trying to start to reopen the country when there's not this huge risk of people going out and partying. May 1st, I believe it's a Friday or a Monday this year, so it's going to be a 3-day weekend. I guess it's going to be a Friday if May 3rd is when they're thinking of ending the lockdown. So they're trying to prevent gatherings. I don't know if my region is going to say, yes, we accept that, but we're going to allow X, Y, and Z type of business to also open up. So, for example, one thing that's not been open is like stationery shops, and people are saying, hey, you want us to homeschool our kids? And we're not allowed to buy paper and pens, because if a stationery shop is closed, then you technically shouldn't be able to buy paper and pen, because then other businesses are able to profit where one has got the government's thumb saying, no, you can't do it. So we'll see how things get adopted here. They are putting a lot of faith in this idea of if you've got anything, you're keeping it to yourself. And we'll see how that goes.
Rebecca, thank you again. This peek into, clear into Europe, into Italy, into this idyllic, beautiful village in northern Italy is a really great opportunity for us here to find out how things are going around the world. I want to thank you again for joining us. Hopefully we'll get you back next Friday if all goes well.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I'll be here.
Great. And for everyone else, 12 noon, we'll have Dr. Fine. 1 o'clock, we'll take the feed from Governor Raimondo's briefing. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.